Hi, everybody. It's Chris Grimm, and this is Deep Work Fast, where this week, like every week, I am going to, for 20 minutes or less, give you tools, ideas, and concepts to help you be the best that you can be in all the roles. Hello, it's been a bit. All the roles in your life, work and at home. So, boss, coworker, team member, parent, partner, all of them, all of it. I want you to be the best that you possibly can be. And I just got back from Montana. That's why I look like this. I got back last night. And frankly, I'd still like to be in Montana doing this with you, completely off the grid. So it wouldn't have worked. Anyway, what was I doing? We have intensives. You may know that our best ways of making real accelerated transformative change, or helping you do it, I should say. Um, Oftentimes doesn't happen on Zoom. So even though I love you guys, no offense, this is not the best medium to get to the deep, deep issues. So if you are ready to do like big, serious work, better decision making, clearer thinking, healthy relationships at home and work, this is the best you, and optimized performance. If you think you're good at all those things, and maybe you are, we want to really kind of up level that. Specifically, if you think you want to get promoted, maybe you're moving industries, you're going to take the biggest job of your life. Well, you need to be prepared for that because things in the business world or the home world, if you haven't noticed, they're not getting easier. They seem to be getting more complicated as tech and data is flowing faster than it ever has before, and expectations are high. So we want to help you do that. I would love to help you do that at a retreat in Hawaii or Montana. So if you're interested, let me know. And it's related to what we're doing today. So let's get to the topic of today. We dropped a blog and it talks about addressing stress, anxiety, panic attacks, not just because I want to help you with the symptoms. I do, by the way. I don't want you to have any of those things because obviously none of those things are great. And in a sustained situation where those stress, anxiety, panic attacks are happening all the time, or what's called chronically, it damages your body. So I don't want you to sustain that. And what I find working with people like you is that many of us have sustained stress, anxiety, and sometimes panic attacks, which could be like a one time thing because you're in a situation that maybe is a new level of stress and anxiety. Or maybe, unfortunately, you're one of those people who has generalized anxiety disorder or any kind of sustained diagnosis around anxiety where you're getting panic attacks on a regular basis. And I don't want that for you. And so today, I am not the kind of doctor who might prescribe something for those things. I am a coach, as you know, and I want to help you in the moment reduce the amount of times that stress, anxiety, and maybe those panic attacks are impeding you from being your best at home or work in any of those roles that we talked about. And what I find and have learned over time, and you may know this, but you might not know how to put it into practice, that when you have a practiced set of go to tools, you can help yourself in situations so that you can slow things down. Um, what I mean by that is when the easiest way to do this, I should say, is to take and practice some breathing techniques. And Heather Mission Control is going to put a link to an article for you that has, I think, 8 different breathing techniques. In our blog, I picked one that I know works. So a good friend of mine and colleague uh, calls this becoming the boss of your brain. And I love that. And becoming the boss of your brain doesn't take more brain power, right? And in fact, when we're in stress and anxiety or potentially a panic attack, it means that your body has gone into auto response of some sort or is about to. And that is not actually when our brain is at its best, because when that amygdala is in charge. The amygdala is the part of our brain that controls our fight or flight response. And some of you may have heard before, there's more than just those two responses. And I think it's worth mentioning if you haven't heard me or anybody else talk about it. There are four responses that our amygdala most commonly will trigger. And that is if we are threatened in any way. So you may have heard me say this, but again, I'll say it again. The amygdala's job 24/7 is to scan the environment for threats. Now, your threats may be in a meeting, knowing that someone's going to bring PowerPoint slides that prove that you and your team are not going to meet your goals, right? So it's not you being chased by a grizzly bear, but your amygdala doesn't necessarily know that. That's not its job. Its job isn't actually to analyze a threat. Its job is to help respond. It's the job of that part of us um, to make sure that in a real threat situation, that we can fight, which means there's chemicals and things happening in our body when that says so, so that we can fight, right? Like stand and actually fight something, or run away. That is what flight is called. Withdraw. I don't want anything to do with this. I'm out. And then the other two, if you haven't heard them, one is called fawn. Fawning is when we go into people pleasing mode. So think about maybe corporate situations where you have people who know that something is wrong. Maybe they know that what the boss is saying everybody should do is a bad idea, but they go into fawn response, which means they do the yes man thing or people pleasing, like, oh, yep, that's a great idea, or yep, we'll take care of it. We'll get it done. Even though in your mind and in your body, you're going, that's never happening. But you do it and you say it in the moment because your flight or your threat response is saying, if I don't do that, I'll get fired. Or if I don't get that, don't say what the boss wants me to say, I'll be embarrassed. Or if I make that hard decision, that person's going to sue us. I don't know. Whatever situation, I'm sure you're in them all day, every day, and you're watching your team and other people have the same things. And in our homes, of course, we have that. Anyway, the last thing that we often do if our threat response, fight, flight, fawn, freeze. So you've seen most likely, if you've ever watched on TikTok or National Geographic, that animals demonstrate this really well, right? They don't fight, they don't run away. You don't see them fawning, but it can happen. Freeze. It's where literally deer in the headlights, right? You freeze. You don't know what to say, or you don't say anything, you don't do anything, you just freeze up. I was in an executive team recently where there was a person who literally just shut down and froze and just sat right there and did nothing. Um, and this doesn't mean you're broken, by the way. I just want you to understand that these are all technically healthy responses to your brain, that part of your brain, thinking that that you're threatened. And I want to come back to the point because oftentimes, especially those of you who are super smart, want to argue with me about this. And I have to tell you, what doesn't matter how smart you are. If you get a threat response, your amygdala is going to override everything. Now, if in fact you've done some work and you know how to maintain control, be the boss of your brain, you may be able to prevent this. So you've heard me maybe say before, people like the Navy SEALs and or professional athletes know how to work with and practice before they get in the situations. Now, oftentimes what I see is that in business, we don't practice enough. We don't practice conflict enough. We don't practice getting in really high stakes situations where it might be super risky to make certain decisions. We don't practice enough. Now, there are some organizations that I think do a really great job at leadership development, and it takes practice because if you do not practice being in those situations, when you get there, your body won't know what to do and your mind won't be able to override it. And so, no matter how smart you are and how prepared you are, how many PowerPoint slides you have, you can't override that. I want to bring to you, like I said, in the blog, it's outlined there. You could Google this. I did not make it up. There is a breathing technique called 4-7-8. Now, I know in the past I have put a blog out on box breathing. It is not the same. This is called 4-7-8. And to break it down, it means you breathe in for a count of 4 or 4 seconds, and then you hold your breath for 7 seconds. That's the 7, 4, 7, 8. And then you exhale for 8. I find that if you do that, you don't have to make a scene, by the way. No one has to know that you're doing it. If you do that for about 10 rounds, you will slow and even out your breathing, which will then slow down your heart rate. And when you take control of your breath and subsequently your heart, your body will calm down. You also will have clearer thinking. You will be able to most likely slow yourself down before you say things that you should not, or before those fight, flight, freeze, fawn responses take over. And back to why? Well, better quality decisions. I don't know a business that would say they don't want that. And I would say most of you probably want good quality decision making in your home decisions too. And the higher the stakes of those decisions, most likely that's a part of the stress, right? Because when it's time, usually there are deadlines around decisions. Usually there's some timing involved. For many people, and I'm sure you're one of them, if you're super busy, you have a big job, you also have a lot going on in your life, in your home and in your family, etc. All of these decisions tend to kind of pile up. Then add that some of those decisions or many of those decisions might have implications to money, right? Maybe it's a domino effect, like you have to make this decision before you can make these other decisions, right? So our modern life is filled with that. And what I find is that when everybody's running around all stressed out all the time and not able to actually get to clear thinking, we end up in situations where it's not optimal, right? We're making decisions from a place where we're not calm, we're not focused, we're not actually um, breathing deep enough so that our body is actually able to bring the best version of us to make that decision. And I'm sure that you know, because you've probably lived it with yourself and other people, the downstream effects of that are often, well, dysfunctional teams, right? We have teams that seem to cycle back around to the same topics over and over again. Doesn't that make you crazy? It makes me nuts. And I'm not even on the teams. But as a coach, when people tend to come to coaching on a regular cadence and tell me the same stories over and over again, or about business problems that should have been solved a long time ago, or maybe we procrastinated because the leader didn't feel like he or her or their team could make a decision because all the reasons. Oftentimes, when I boil it down, I find that that's because in all the meetings and processes in pursuit of that, we had people that weren't at their best. And when we are not at our best, when we are stressed and anxious, and God forbid, having panic attacks, it means most likely that we are also avoiding the interactions with all the other people involved to help move towards those great decisions, right? So I bring you this simple technique 4-7-8, right? The 4-7-8 count breathing. I know that you're probably saying it can't be that simple, Chris. And honestly, um, it's that simple, but it's that complicated because most people don't take the time or they brush it off and say to me, like, I don't have time to do that. And my message to you today is that you don't have time not to do that. So if your life is so busy and so crazy, and you don't have the space to learn how to intentionally breathe in a structured way for like a minute, call me and we'll figure that out. Uh, I recommend, no joke, that you practice doing this when you're not totally stressed out, when you're not in the middle of work and crazy going from Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting or in person meeting. Don't do it when you're driving. I would practice it first when you have a few minutes and you are. You're able to practice, because when we are in a practice mode, which is what we do a lot in retreats, I take you away from real life so that I can help you practice without all the distractions and the demands of real life, so that you can use these tools when you go back in and then start to see the results. So, I want you to practice. Like I said, Heather, thank you, thank you, thank you in the chat. There's also the article that has 8 breathing techniques. There's another one there that is one of my faves. It's called belly breathing. Go ahead and read those. They're all pretty simple. They're all free. You can do it on your own. And I recommend that you start thinking about breathing as the best free tool that you have with you all the time. You are in complete control of this, and it will make you better. I promise. So that's this week for Deep Work Fast. I will see you again next week with more tools. Um, and you have nothing but everything to gain here. There's nothing you can lose by trying this technique. So I challenge you to try. And you are welcome to tell me if you think it doesn't work or you need something else. I am here. I am your servant. So see you next week for Deep Work Fast. Go ahead, get the blog, try to do it. 4, 3, 8. 4 breaths in, hold for 7, out for 8, 10 times. You got this. Bye.